Week 5 is complete, and boy, did everything happen. Some winless teams get a victory. Some teams that are like bordering on going 3-2 instead fall to 2-3. What you put it, 6 teams scored over 35 points. And yes, only one final team is left in terms of being undefeated on the season. Hayden, what a week. A lot to get into where we cover every single game and every single fantasy relevant player. And we kick things off with 2 quarterbacks from the 2018 NFL draft class, one on his 4th team, one on his 5th team. That is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the Seattle Seahawks, with the Bucs winning 38-35. I didn't say a single moment of this one, so I cannot wait based on this scoreboard to hear what happened.
Never let go of your pre-draft opinions. These 2 quarterbacks were sensational. It is a wild, wild way to get here, obviously. So let's start around at halftime. These quarterbacks were 34 of 40 for 350 yards, 0 sacks, 0 turnovers. So they were starting off hot. But after that, Kenneth Walker rips off an explosive run, gets about to the 5-yard line. Zach Charbonnet scores a touchdown. Emeka Egbuka on the other side follows that up with a huge post seam route touchdown, which he pretty much does like every single week at this point. That's like his signature route. And then afterwards even gets a 2-pointer on a little out route. The following possession, Sam Darnold's turn, rips a 53-yarder to JSN, who keeps winning downfield. That's now like all of a sudden his signature route, which is brand new stuff. That sets up an AJ Barner touchdown. After that, back to Emeka Egbuka, 57-yarder on this little double mood post route. We're keep going back and forth. Rachaad White scores a touchdown. Coming out of half, 4 drives, 4 touchdowns. Impressive stuff. Wow. The following drive, Sam Darnold goes back. He scores another touchdown. AJ Barner with another one. He has this really cool robotic touchdown dance. He's like a real player. He can run block. Now we're starting to see him pop up, as a receiver. He's one of the better tight ends in the league right now. I don't think that's an exaggeration. We finally get a punt. The Bucs pin the Seahawks down to their own 1-yard line. Sam Darnold, 99 yards, marching. They finally get down there. Torrey Horton on the 4th and 2. Sam Darnold buys some time. Out of structure, touchdown. We are still going here. Baker answers with his own touchdown, this time to Sterling Shepard. We're all of a sudden back at 35-35. Sam Darnold's trying to have the game-winning drive. Ball ricochets off the defensive lineman's helmet. He's just trying to throw the ball away to Cooper Kupp's feet. Unlucky bounce, sets up an easy game-winning field goal for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 38-35. Everybody balled out. To me, if you're just taking like one player that like really stood out aside from the quarterbacks who were phenomenal, it's Emeka Egbuka. The numbers are ridiculous. I went back through the first 5 weeks of an NFL career among all wide receivers all time. Emeka is now 3rd most in fantasy points through these 5 weeks. The only guys ahead of him, Randy Moss and Puka Nacua. Wow. That's the start that we're talking about with Emeka Egbuka. Chris Godwin was like barely even noticeable in the grand scheme of things. It was all Emeka down the field. He's winning as an outside receiver. It's not like slot merchant stuff. He keeps winning in different ways. And right now he should easily be the offensive rookie of the year favorite going into the rest of October.
He's done it in multiple ways because in the opening few games of this season, Emeka Egbuka had to be highly efficient and when, in the red zone for touchdowns. Here today, yes, it's just 7 targets, but taking those for 163 yards and 1 score. Let's focus in on the Bucs mainly. Obviously, a huge talking point was Bucky Irving missing this game. It came out actually on Sunday morning or just before kickoff that Bucky Irving not only is dealing with a foot injury, but also, I believe, a shoulder injury on top of it. And he is definitely out for the week 6 contest. So for the fantasy players out there, how did this backfield unfold? Because I can read the stats. 14 carries, 41 yards, 2 scores to Rachaad White compared to just 3 carries for 3 yards. But at the same time, it feels like neither team really got to run the football with, 24 carries for the Bucs, 20 for the Seahawks compared to, 33 and 35 dropbacks here.
I don't know why you would run the ball when the passing numbers were so ridiculous. Both teams, by the way, defenses wise, were missing players in the secondaries, and like that was very evident. Like they just did not have enough corners to defend these wide receivers and quarterbacks. So with the Rachaad White, it was a complete no contest. Finishes with 80% snaps. He has 2 goal line scores. He did not have an efficient outing. His longest run was only 12 yards downfield, but as he usually does, he catches all 4 of his targets for another 30 yards. So he has that PPR floor. He's the goal line back. And then for those counting at home, Sean Tucker finishes with negative yards. So this was a complete no contest. And there's really no reason to believe that this is going to flip. This is like for the third year in a row, they like Rachaad White more than Sean Tucker. The draft capital suggests that as well. There's like really no reason to believe that Sean Tucker is going to flip this. He might have an explosive run here or there, but right now Tampa Bay just wants to throw the ball because they trust Baker Mayfield. With that, I did want to also mention now the offensive coordinator had a really, really nice game plan here, super aggressive, but there was just like nice designs. Obviously Baker was like throwing darts, but John Ledyard had this number off of play action dropbacks. He was 11 for 12 for 165 yards on the 13 dropbacks. That's as good as it gets. So there was guys running wide open, but this is a great game for Baker Mayfield. A lot of those throws were like fitting it in, sometimes out of structure. So this was like one of those games, man. Like I thought both these quarterbacks looked like potential top 10 NFL quarterbacks. It sounds crazy, but they're doing stuff with their arms, and both of these guys make plays out of structure now. So obviously they're going to have some like really untimely interceptions, and like they have to continue running hot with like all this downfield work. But when they're hot, these dudes are absolutely hot. So this is like one of the games of the year.
4-1 the Bucs are right now. They've beaten the Falcons, the Texans, the Jets, and here against Seattle. Their only loss was by 6 points to the Philadelphia Eagles. We know how that one turned out last week. Coming up for them, it's San Francisco and Detroit over these next 2 weeks. So those are some maybe playoff previews that we'll see in the future. Final question here for the Bucs. We know when we reviewed the game for Chris Godwin last week, he just had like hands problems. He was kind of running similar routes, outbreakers, just not coming down with the contested grabs. Only 4 targets here. Anything you want to say about Chris Godwin and if he looked any different than he did last week?
No, a couple passes underneath in the flats, and maybe a ball or two over the middle. Nothing really stood out to me one way or the other. Like I thought last week, like maybe not quite as explosive, but really it was just all the catch point stuff. He wasn't like super involved. Like you look at the targets, it's 7-5, 4-4, 5-3. It was like pretty spread out evenly, aside from Emeka Egbuka, who's like clearly their downfield threat. Tez Johnson got in there for 4 big plays. That's maybe somebody that kind of stood out a little bit. And then Kadon had some nice yards after the catch numbers as well. But yeah, this is just like a crazy old fashioned shootout.
Okay, let's talk about Seattle, because this game can rip your heart out. Sammy D obviously goes 28 of 34, 341, 4 touchdowns, and that 1 interception at the end to give the Buccaneers a short field. JSN, 9 targets, 8 receptions, 132 yards, 1 score. My guy, AJ Barner. Sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, it pays off to actually watch the tape, because he goes 7 for 53 and has caught 4 touchdowns in 5 games so far this season. And even Cooper Kupp popping up for 6 for 59, and Torrey Horton with his 3 for 39 and a score. Talk through any of those that you want to.
Well, AJ Barner, he's not a top 15 guy yet, but he was out there for 25 of the 39 routes. When you watch him, he's just like so physically impressive. And
he's like a 6th offensive lineman that can also do things in terms of the receiving game. Like that is so meaningful in a Clint Kubiak offense, and why I advocated for him over, Elijah Arroyo once the Noah Fant cut happened.
Yeah, Elijah Arroyo got in there for 1 reception, but it's all AJ Barner right now, and he's just a really good real life football player, and he's like good like off of play action, which is obviously a huge focal point of this offense. Cooper Kupp had like an up and down day just because this was a huge crazy game. He did have 6 catches for 59 yards, but he probably should have had a couple plays that he didn't come down with. So nothing really stood out on his end. I think the Kenneth Walker Charbonnet stuff, just to kind of summarize this, it was about an even split in general. It was unfortunate. Kenneth Walker, I thought, looked obviously much better, and the numbers suggest that as well. But he is explosive, gotten down to the 5-yard line. The next play, Zach Charbonnet scores. So that was kind of like a vulture situation there. And I just thought that Kenneth Walker was like making the most out of his opportunities.
It's kind of frustrating looking at the box score. Again, why would you run the football when you're averaging, 10 yards per pass attempt? Yeah. But when a guy gets 10 carries and gets 86 yards out of those in terms of averaging 8.6 yards per pop, you would think he would get more than 10 carries. And I guess that just did not happen in this game.
Yeah. I mean, at the same time, Sam Darnold averaged over 10 yards per dropback. Didn't take a sack. Yeah, no, it's crazy. I'm not sure, man. They needed to give Kenneth Walker a break after his 35-yard run, I guess.
Final point. Looks like Jalen Milroe popped in for a play and then fumbled. Why is Clint Kubiak popping in Jalen Milroe like for one play every single game for like a diagrammed run at this point if everything else is working.
Well, I think it was a couple weeks ago. It was like a 4th and 1 where they had like Sam Darnold do the zone read, and they got stuffed on that one. This time they go like full triple option where he's like waiting to like flick it backwards, and he just waited way too long, and then eventually somebody kind of hit him. The ball just like gets sprayed up too high to Kenneth Walker, and that resulted into a fumble. So like really like that was like the true like kind of what the hell just happened play of the entire game was that one. So I get like sprinkling him in for like a second or two in key situations, but like doing triple option with your rookie quarterback might be like extending it a little bit too far. I would understand it for a tush push, just like a QB draw, something like that, QB power. But once we're doing triple option stuff, I don't know. That might be too much.
Seahawks are 3-2 right now. They lost to the 49ers in week 1. We know they just lost to the Bucks here. They do have the Jaguars, the Texans, the Commanders, the Cardinals, and the Rams over these next 5 weeks. So those 5 weeks kind of potentially define the rest of their season, because to me, this is one of the teams that you see their identity, you know their identity, you feel it. And while it's, Mike McDonald's second year as head coach and first year with Clint Kubiak calling plays, some of these other teams are kind of searching for that in year 2, year 3, year 4 of coaching staff. So to me, I really hope that Seattle, and I know we're only 5 weeks in, can make the playoffs and stay healthy, because I really like enjoying watching their team.
Yep. They're on pace with their rebuild. That is for sure.
Speaking of 3-2 in the NFC, let's go to the Washington Commanders on the road in SoFi Stadium, beating the LA Chargers 27-10. There were 120 plays in this game, but I'm convinced that one changed the outcome. After the Chargers opened up with a 10-point lead with a short Ladd McConkey touchdown, the Commanders were dangerously, and I mean dangerously close to basically going 3 and out for a third straight drive to open this contest. They were staring at a 3rd and 16, but rookie Jalen Lane, who is filling in for Terry McLaurin, comes down with a tight window catch to kickstart the Commanders' offense on way to 27 points after that, while the Chargers didn't score another one after that single moment. So, who shined for Washington here? Well, rookie 7th round pick, Bill Krosky-Merritt. Breakout game. I only think he played like 28 of 59 snaps, something like that. But he had gains of 13, 15, 27, 10, 15, 21, 28, 11, 18 yards. He had 2 touchdown runs untouched on the left side. I am not sure what was going on with this Jesse Minter defense. That is not something you're accustomed to seeing with this Chargers unit. But off the left side, somehow, some way, he just was able to waltz into the front pylon for 2 scores. And in fact, he even fumbled in this game to give the Chargers an opening, a keyhole back to close the scoreboard. And after that fumble, Cliff Kingsbury said, no, you're not on the bench. You're not sidelined. We're going to give you a touch on the very next snap, on the very next drive, which to me is incredibly promising. Jaden Daniels went 15 of 26 for 231 and a touchdown to go with 8 for 39, scrambling in his return from injury. The one touchdown was a 4th down with like 2 minutes to go. I'm not even sure, and maybe Commanders fans will get mad at me here. I'm not even sure he was actually trying to throw this football for a score or for there to be like a positive outcome here for Washington and Cliff Kingsbury. There was 1:08 left. He basically runs on a 4th and 7, even further away from the goal line, and then just lobs it up to the right kind of sideline corner of the end zone. And Deebo Samuel comes down with an 8-yard touchdown catch. But they were going to win that game anyways because they were up by 10 points with just a minute left. So it's a nice day all around here for the Commanders. And as for the Chargers, Hayden, many of their same issues popped up in a big way, and it doesn't give me a lot of confidence moving forward that they can sustain the greatness that we saw in the opening 4 games of the season.
Yeah, it looked like that the build touchdowns with the exact same play design, pretty much walking all the way free. Obviously, not having Khalil Mack is going to make an impact. Not having Joe Alt is going to make an impact. But yeah, it's a pretty ugly loss at home to only have 10 points there. So question for you, just looking at the box score, it was Deebo Samuel with 48% of the targets here.
Yep.
Terry McLaurin, I'm guessing still week to week, didn't practice with a quad injury. So like just temperature check on Deebo Samuel, like rest of the season. Like when Terry McLaurin comes back and stuff, like how much does it even matter? Because every single time they get him the ball, it is going pretty much for a first down. So like, are we talking like top 15 rest of the season? Like him versus Terry McLaurin, like probably not even a question. You'd rather have Debo?
Oh, easy.
Yeah.
Debo's my guy. 11 targets, 8 receptions, 96 yards, a score. He's winning in traffic. It's like those square ends that they run constantly that Jane Daniels loves to attack near the hash marks. And he's just right there all the time. And like I said, he's even coming down with some red zone stuff that isn't rushing, and it's actually as a receiver. Yeah, I mean, after that, Luke McCaffrey had 1 catch for 50 yards, which set up a field goal just before halftime. Obviously, JCM goes 2 for 39. Then after that, Jalen Lane has 1 catch. Jerry McNichols makes people miss in the open field for 1 catch. Zach Ertz doesn't even record a catch in this game. So, yeah, all wheels up for Bill for me, even if we look at it and in the formulas, it says he's only a 50% snap player. It is so clear, and it was clear to me heading into this game that he is the best ball carrier on this offense. And like when they needed a spark in this game, he delivered. And just having Jaden out there, you know, they were holding edges. Defenses have to account for Jaden Daniels and his movement. And that just allowed Bill with like to slither. I mean, he really does slither between these cracks, between the tackles, and just make things happen. Okay. This is the issue for the Chargers. All right. The offensive line issues hit another wall. Trey Pipkins left for a quarter, who is their fill-in right tackle. Mekhi Becton basically missed a quarter as well. So I believe Jamari Salier had to play both right tackle and then right guard. Justin Herbert took 4 sacks. He nearly had another one on the very first drive when he ran for 41 yards. There was this sequence in the second half. 1st and 10, he takes a sack. So we get to 2nd and 19. This unreal conversion that he makes to Quentin Johnston, but it's holding on basically both Omarion Hampton and Trey Pipkins. So then that turns into a 2nd and 28. Guess what? Justin Herbert converts that to Keenan Allen. But again, it's a penalty on right tackle Trey Pipkins that they bring it back to force a 2nd and 33, and they ultimately punt. So this was certainly not a bad Justin Herbert game. He tried to do everything that he could, even if it says 22 of 29 for 166 and a touchdown and an interception. He did run the football for 4 for 60. And you'll see that Omarion Hampton was kept to 18 touches for 70 yards. It's because he basically didn't play the entire fourth quarter with an ankle injury and left the game in a walking boot. So we will see what happens and what his future has in store.
Yeah, it looks like it's a 40% pressure rate allowed for Justin Herbert up front. Yeah, Joe Alt's going to be out for probably about a month or so. So, yeah, this is just the status quo. If they're not going to have Omarion Hampton, it's Kamani Vidal and Hassan Haskins as the backup running backs. So this team's just going to continue to drop back. So, like, everything's just going to be focused on the pass game. It's nice to see Herbert. I saw that 41-yard run, but had a couple other runs as well. That's been kind of like a quietly like new part of Justin Herbert's fantasy profile, just some more rushing statistics this year. But the big storyline for the Chargers wide receivers heading into this was like, what the hell is going on with Loud McConkey? So he does score a touchdown, 7 targets here. Is there anything to kind of glean from the situation, or is like right there at the right time for that end zone touchdown?
He scored a touchdown in the first drive. It was basically a sprint out with Omarion Hampton that kind of pulled the coverage. And then it's just this little sit route, 2 yards, find a little soft area, and Herbert rifles it in for him. The other big turning point was he had a punt return touchdown, but at the same time, the Chargers roughed the punter, I believe Tress Way, which was actually a really good call. So Ladd could have had 2 touchdowns in this game, sick punt return, but it doesn't count, rightfully so. So yeah, I mean, there was nothing added on top of here. It kind of just got to a point, and it's not like, you know, this Commanders team has incredible pass rushers, especially on the edge. Just the Chargers could not hold up to it. The 4 sacks plus all the holding penalties, plus they nearly had a goal line touchdown. The Chargers did. They were at the 2-yard line, and Herbert tries to throw a pass over the middle. Bradley Bozeman is opposite Johnny Newton, and Johnny Newton just bats the ball, and it's intercepted at the goal line by Mike Sainristil. So just like all these opportunities that these other normal teams with adequate offensive lines would have chances, the Chargers are like just taking those away from themselves. And you look, if Omarion Hampton was in the game for that, he probably would have gotten the football because like Kamani Vidal and Hassan Haskins got some opportunities before, and they didn't convert.
Yeah, it's going to be really hard. They get the Dolphins next week. Great spot for all these pass catchers ranking. I mean, even I don't even know who to rank first from the Chargers wide receiver group. So because like Quinn Johnson was first in my rankings, but he finishes last in target share in this one. Man, they're all going to be in the teens, I would guess.
Luckily for the Chargers, they do have the Miami Dolphins next, which is a nice bounce back spot for them to hopefully be 4-2. And after that, it's like the Colts and then the Vikings and the Titans. So it's certainly not one of the most difficult schedules that the Chargers have. And as for the Commanders, after going win-loss, win, it's the Bears, Cowboys, Chiefs, Seahawks, Lions next here for the Commanders. Speaking of good teams, Hayden, we got to talk about it. Denver Broncos 21, go to Philly and make it a miserable weekend for that entire Philadelphia community, who only put up 17 points in this game, 10 of those in the first half, the other 7 in the third quarter. What the hell happened to this Eagles offense, and how the hell did the Denver Broncos score 18 points in the fourth quarter for a comeback victory?
Yeah, through the first 35 minutes of the game, this was pretty lopsided. The Broncos were kind of playing a lot of like cover one man coverage looks, like based off the broadcast, and the Eagles just kept making big plays. It was kind of going to everybody. Devontae Smith had probably the most impressive rep, where he just ran right by Riley Moss on the outside for a really big downfield shot. AJ Brown was involved early, a little bit of a broken play reception, a couple underneath routes, got a DPI called on Pat Surtain near the goal line. But he also didn't have like a pretty important part of the game where he kind of has some space, runs by a free safety. There's nobody between him and the end zone. He kind of pulls up and like slows down. Jalen Hurts throws the ball over the top. We don't know if that was a missed throw or if AJ Brown shouldn't have stopped running there, but either way, that could have been one of these long touchdowns. And that's just been the whole thing with AJ Brown, who finishes with 5 for 43. Right after halftime, the Eagles catch the Broncos in that cover one look again. They get Saquon Barkley lined up in a complete mismatch, throws the ball over his head, catches it for a 47-yard touchdown. They've got the lead. After that, the Broncos changed up their defensive looks, and the offense got completely sideways. Yikes. They were really throwing the football. In this one, they had 11 carries and 44 dropbacks. That was probably the craziest split I've ever seen with Jalen Hurts. And keep in mind, they were leading. They were winning. So they kind of gave up with the whole try to run the ball. And for most of the game, it was working. But after that touchdown to Saquon Barkley, it is just 3 and out, punt situation. And they were passing the ball. It's just they did not have the answers after it was no longer just cover one, reading things out. So they have some questions there. And one key difference here, once again, Landon Dickerson early or about halfway through this game gets rolled up on with his ankle injury. This offensive line is just not the same. And when Jalen Hurts isn't reading things out, he doesn't have as much time, his efficiency goes sideways. So it was good to see Devontae 8 for 114, big game, 10 targets. AJ Brown just missed, but that's been the entire storyline with him. And then after that, once they changed up the defense, everything stagnated. And that's when we can get to the Cortland Sutton, Bo Nix, J.K. Dobbins part of it. But obviously, this is the first game the Eagles have lost when everyone's been healthy. And boy, did they earn it. That second half was very, very ugly.
Look, I don't want to pile on the area of Philadelphia. They've had a tough weekend. I mean, UCLA beats Penn State, right? The Phillies lose as well. And now you have the Eagles in this game. I don't want to be that guy. But Hayden, this is now like, going back to the second half of last week when Jalen Hurts didn't complete a single pass in that game, to now the second half of this game where I think they had 24 plays in the second half, 1 run and 23 passes. After that touchdown that you said to Saquon Barkley, they went 6 plays, 33 yards punt, 3 plays, 3 and out, end of half, touchdown, 4 plays, 74 yards. Then it's the 5 play, 23 yards, 3 plays, negative 16 yards, 3 plays, negative 6 yards, 3 plays, 2 yards, and then end of game with 1:11 with a chance of winning this game, and they just can't do anything with it on a Hail Mary. If it's as simple as, we can't play cover one against Jalen Hurts, and if we just do some split safety looks and they have no answer, like, that's a huge red flag. Yeah. That brings me back to 2023, and I don't really care that you're Super Bowl champions right now, because this has been, for the vast majority of the season, miserable offensive football. Has it worked? Are you 4-1? Yes. But at some point it catches up to you, and it caught up to you in the second half of last week. It caught up to you, it feels like, for this entire game. And it's only week 5. There's plenty of time to fix it, but it's not one of these simple things of, oh, they're winning, it's okay. Like, it is worth bringing up, because they were winning back in 2023, and then it sputtered into a terrible, terrible halt in the playoffs after losing in that first round.
So since the beginning of 2024, so including the Super Bowl run, and then this year, they're 6th in EPA per play, but they're 16th in success rate. That's run and pass. So this is a team that's been really explosive, but the down-to-down consistency is no longer there. And that makes me nervous, because the offensive line is no longer like a great unit. It's still a good unit, but it's not the elite great units that we've seen with Philadelphia. And I think that difference does make this Eagles team a little bit less potent as last year's. And I think the defense is also taking a slight step back as well. So yeah, they still got some explosive plays down the field. They nearly connected on some big ones, but the down-to-down consistency, especially in the second half, Brett Coleman noted that they had 8 straight plays in the second half. And those were the drives that resulted in punts. So just like a really like bizarre, I'll have to watch this again on the all 22, like see what the Broncos were doing at that point. But you never see the Eagles abandon the run. And that's just kind of the state of, I think, of the offensive line. And then with Saquon Barkley, who I think still looks extremely explosive. Nobody can tell me on some of these runs where there's like some holding plays where they were called back, or the Saquon when he actually had all the space to run on the wheel route. He looks still super explosive. I don't think that they trust the offensive line to run block right now. But, and that's a pretty big deal.
Can I put the offensive line in perspective? I see that Jalen Hurts takes 6 sacks here. Are those short sacks? Are they on Jalen Hurts? Are they on the offensive line? Like, what's going on there? Because like when I look across the league, like we just talked about the Chargers, that's a rough offensive line. Okay. When I look at the Eagles, they still have Jordan Mailata. They still have Lane Johnson. They still have, They still have, really solid offensive linemen. This isn't one of like the bottom tier offensive line. So is it a case of we have to have a top 5 offensive line, or else we like can't function? Like, what is going on here?
Well, I think this week the offensive line is probably better than the last couple of weeks, but like Brett Toth had a pretty bad game in replacement for Landon Dickerson in this one. So, and this is also the Broncos defense. This is consensus wise one of the best defenses in the league. So it was a sloppy game. They're 4-1. Not every team's going to go undefeated. This team will look better. Hopefully they have some work cut out. I would be curious to see what this trend is between the pass to run splits, because like we've never seen that. I think that's a pretty big takeaway. Like if they're going to don't trust that they could run the ball as well, then a lot of the play action stuff and the downfield threats and loading up the box and winning over the top, that becomes a little bit harder. So they're gonna have to figure this thing out with a new offensive coordinator. That's for sure.
Okay. This is my challenge to Patullo, the new OC, if I'm even saying that correctly, who I'm sure doesn't have a lot of fans going right now, and the Eagles at large. In 2 of the next 3 games, they face the New York Giants. Those are perfect opportunities to figure this out. One, because they have a good pass rush and a good defensive line. So you're going to be tested in that same way, but you can attack them in the secondary, right? So those are like 2 dress rehearsals for the remainder of the season for this team to look like the juggernaut, that the talent that they have on both sides of the ball, that they can be. Because I think that's my frustration. I think the Eagles are freaking awesome. They're just not playing to the talent that they should right now. Like, we know what happened in that Rams game. The first half was abysmal, and they turned it on the second half. The Buccaneers game, the first half was good, and the second half was abysmal. And in this game, they only put up 17 points. So it's like in each of these last 3 games, I know that they're 2-1, but you can't tell me that this looks like a 4-1 ball club in the last 3 games. Like, in my eyes, they do not.
They all got the Cowboys, Chiefs, Rams, Bucks, Broncos, probably all playoff caliber teams too. So yeah, it's just one of those where you're not going to, the NFL, it's not every team goes, has big stretches where they're winning all the games. So you're going to have some bad games. But yeah, there's definitely some weaknesses. This unit's worse than last year's team for sure.
Let's talk about Denver then, because if it was a rocky second half for the Philadelphia offense, it looks like it was a rocky 3 quarters here for the Broncos offense. And they turned it on again with 18 points in the fourth quarter. How did that happen?
Cortland Sutton was just beating Quinyon Mitchell one-on-one. Like, I think that's pretty much kind of sums this thing up. Bo Nix had some opportunities, some like half field reads down the field were just like some near misses. I thought J.K. Dobbins played fairly well, had some like nice chunk gains, goes 20 carries, 79 yards in a touchdown. He's like just separated himself from RJ Harvey and Bidet. I know that they have like similar snap counts, but it's all J.K. Dobbins right now. The pass game is all Cortland Sutton, as it should be. You have some like underneath stuff to Evan Ingram late for a little touchdown. Troy Franklin with a couple passes, but really like all of the big plays and like the MVP of this game was Cortland Sutton. Like he had to go beat Quinyon Mitchell, who was in his hip pocket for a lot of the game at the catch point. He was able to do that. A couple jump fade routes, a nice like quick little dig route where Sutton catches it quickly and gets upfield too. So he was just a monster in this one. Goes 8 for 99 on 10 targets. Everybody else was inefficient. Cortland Sutton was crazy. And that was in a very difficult matchup on the road. And a lot of that stuff happened in the second half. So this is just like a stamping that like Cortland Sutton's like one of the better X receivers in the game. And they asked him to do a lot because they don't have a normal drop back game really. So a lot of their reads are half the field. And it's the same kind of routes, jump ball routes, dig routes, post routes with Cortland Sutton. And he's just really good at them. So I know he didn't score a touchdown in this one, but he had a very difficult matchup. And in the second half, they just kept throwing him the ball and it was working.
Okay. Talk to me about Bo Nix, because it's been a roller coaster start to the season, in fantasy, at least quarterback 27, 12, 19, these last 2 weeks, quarterback 5 and quarterback 12. There's also been, 2 wins for this team. Are we back to, this is the Bo Nix that we expected to be here in week 1, or is there like still some room to get there?
Oh yeah, there's definitely plenty of room for improvement with Bo Nix. Like I think when he was red hot in the back half of last year, a lot of those like rollout plays where they'd throw across the field and stuff, he's been barely missing those this year, where last year those were very automatic. And I'm sure that those are like that teams are like kind of prepared for that at this point. So yeah, a lot of this stuff was just like jump ball to Cortland Sutton. So you can only give, Bo Nix so much credit for that. It was not a very sophisticated offense, in my opinion. I thought that Sean Payton called a great game and kept this thing like obviously very tight. So big credit to him. I thought that the coaching staff difference here was another big takeaway here. But on the road against Philadelphia in comeback mode was this makes the Denver Broncos. This is probably the biggest like win for Sean Payton. Just like, what does this mean? Oh, we can beat like the big boys on the road, and they get the Jets, the Giants, the Cowboys, and then another week passes, and then they get the Raiders. So their schedule is looking pretty nice. So this team with the Chiefs and the Chargers kind of having some up and down moments, I would not rule this team out in the division. I wouldn't make them the favorites, but they got a good defense. And hopefully, as we saw last year, Bo Nix's October and November look a lot better than the September.
Right, because their other 2 wins this season are against the Titans and the Bengals.
This one mattered.
Caliber for it. So that's a pretty big step up, going from those teams to winning this one on the road. Like you said, it's the Jets and the Giants for them over the next 2 weeks. All right, I saw a statistic today that if you are 2-3, you have like a 22% chance of making the playoffs. And if you're 1-4, you have a 7% chance of making the playoffs. Unfortunately for the Miami Dolphins, they fall to 1-4 in that 7% category. And somehow, some way, the Panthers are 2-3 on the season and win this one in comeback fashion, 27-24. There are basically 3 players to talk about here at large. The first 2 are on the Dolphins end. Darren Waller in the first half and really in the first quarter goes absolutely bananas. Something like 3 catches for 53 yards. In the first half alone, it's 5 receptions, 78 yards, and a touchdown. He was the go-to player. Now, you can tell in the pre-production meetings that Mark Schlereth asked Mike McDaniel how much he was going to play. I don't know if you have the snap counts in front of you, but they said that Darren Waller, after playing 16 snaps last week in his return and still making a major impact, would only play 30 snaps here today. What was the tally?
32, 27 of them were routes. So he's a slot receiver.
And unfortunately, if this was, I don't know, week 4, week 5, that he was back in the fold, then Darren Waller probably would have had a much bigger game, despite having, again, 5 for 78 and 1, because he didn't have a catch in the entire, I believe, second half of this contest. The other person, Jalen Waddle, I'm not going to say it was a slow start, but he really broke it open to give the Dolphins 24 points from 17 on a 46-yard touchdown that he just straight up burned Mike Jackson on. Finishes the day with 6 receptions, 110 yards, and a score. But the headliner is double calf cramp Rico Dowdle himself on a cool 26 touches for 234 total yards and 1 score. Rico Dowdle, yes, the man, the castaway, who only signed like a $5 million deal, had a gain of 43 yards in this game, had a gain of 53 yards in this game. He put the team on his freaking back. And that was even missing multiple drives because he literally couldn't move because both of his calves were cramping like me after a hit class with all the 35-year-old MILFs out there in Charlotte.
Woo.
All right. I know how he felt. I certainly didn't go for 234 yards in week 5 of the NFL season. As for other people on the Panthers offense, Bryce Young had his customary, I guess, 2 early turnovers in this game. It was like a RPO action that he just fumbled it because the presence of Bradley Chubb was there. And then there was another middle of the field safety look that he just threw directly into on a crossing route to Xavier Leggett. But at the same time, like, there were multiple big plays that Bryce Young made in the second half of this game, like a 4th and 4 conversion, extended, avoided, out of structure to Tetairoa McMillan, who finished with 6 for 73. There was a 3rd and 4 touchdown to Xavier Leggett in the back corner of the end zone, which was all timing anticipation throw. There's another sweet throw to, again, Xavier Leggett, who you can't count on, but you have to on the game-winning drive for 30-plus yards. And then on that same game-winning drive, a 4th and 5 to Jimmy Horn on a gotta-have-it play for a player in Jimmy Horn who had been inactive for the first 4 games, had to go through contact in order to get there, and then comes out on top here. So yeah, didn't anticipate it when the Dolphins were up like 17-0 in this game, but the Panthers win 27-24.
Yeah, Rico Dowdle was the best of all of the new running backs that we got in our lives, and we'll probably get maybe another game with Rico Dowdle, so that's pretty encouraging for him. Yeah, Bryce Young, those are his 2 signatures. He has a fumble, he throws the ball over the middle for an interception, but when he has space and he can pre-snap, throw the big, hole shots, and I saw a couple to Tetairoa McMillan here, that's like his best moments. And like we saw that in the second half. We see that in like garbage time or comeback mode with Bryce Young. So like good on him for hanging in. This team could like easily rolling over, be 1-4, and no one really cares about this. So good to see them show a little bit of fight here, and Tetairoa McMillan, I think, once again standing out.
Yeah, and T-Mac nearly had another downfield shot. He was going up for it, got 2 hands on the football. Would have been a cool acrobatic catch that he probably frequently comes down with. He was being pulled down by his jersey. The officials threw a defensive pass interference, but then somehow picked it up, even if the replay showed that he was literally being pulled down to come down with this catch. And then, yeah, for Rico Dowdle, if you picked him up, you're also starting him next week. It is a massive revenge game spot against the Dallas Cowboys defense for Rico Dowdle out of a 234-yard game. And we know that Chuba Hubbard's going to miss next week at the exact same time. So, yeah, I mean, this one's crazy. I would even say that, like, the Panthers coaching wasn't even that great in this one, too. Like, they narrowed it down to 17-13 after a field goal at the start of the third quarter. And then after that, they went 4 plays, punt, 6 plays, punt, 3 plays, punt. And in those 3 drives, after already rushing for about 200 yards, they had called 3 running plays. Now, again, some of that was because Rico Dowdle was on the sideline line getting his calves vibrated. But look, we see other teams pull running backs off the street and get them ready for start. So if you can't trust Trevor Etienne, who's been in your roster since April, or DJ Dallas to carry the rock, to again, demolish this Dolphins defensive front, then what are we doing? So yeah, they got back to what they wanted to do in terms of running the football, and had some huge plays in the second half. What I was most shocked by, Hayden, we always talk about the misdirection and all that stuff with this Dolphins offense. Devon Achane only getting 10 carries for 16 yards. His day was saved by the first touchdown in the game, or maybe the second. That was a 10-yarder toe tapping effort along the right side. I mean, amazing grab. But, the Panthers don't have finesse or speedy edge rushers. They're just all so powerful.
Yeah.
And what they were doing, by the way, this left guard 72, Saivana, whoever, that dude might be the worst guard in the NFL at this moment.
Yeah.
And he was a second round pick. He doesn't move his feet. He gave up multiple sacks in this game, but to combat the misdirection and kind of to force the Dolphins, like they just totally went away from the rushing attack despite being up by multiple touchdowns. It's because they knew that like they couldn't even get to the edge. They couldn't get out in space just because of the powerful rushes on the outside.
Yeah, that second rounder was a right tackle out of Arizona. It was like very clear that he did not have like the functional movement skills to play tackle. So now he's playing on the other side of the field and kind of switching positions. So tough look for him. I got to ask you just the Darren Waller stuff, because if on a per route basis, and eventually he's going to be playing full snaps, we start, carrying that over and do a little bit of multiplication. How high are we going with this Darren Waller stuff? Because I'm not ruling out a truly sensational run here coming out, because he looks very fast. He's obviously can always jump really high. He's massive out there. And he seems like a focal point. Like there's a lot of times where they're motioning him into clean looks. And then he obviously had that one against Sauce Gardner the previous week. So if you start multiplying his routes and we can have any semblance of this per route numbers, we're looking at a truly like an elite tight ends. Like my question to you, like, start naming how many guys you would rather have rest of the season over Darren Waller. It cannot be that many.
He's already the tight end 12 on the season and has only played 2 games because he scored 14.7 last week. Well, this is in standard. Let me go into half PPR because that'll be slightly different because we know he scored touchdown. He's the tight end 19 in half point PPR with 16.2 last week and 16.3 this week. Let's start naming them. Okay, Jake Ferguson, Tyler Warren, Trey McBride's last 2 weeks have not been great.
No, it's
You'll see what Hunter Henry does on Sunday Night Football.
Waller.
And then Sam Laporta had a massive day. Tucker Kraft as well on a bye week.
Waller.
I think after that, I would go Darren Waller with Brock Powers, being injured. And if they set him this week, they might set him in the future based on how the Raiders are doing at this moment too.
Yeah, I think some of those names that you mentioned, I think I would take Waller ahead. I think this is very real. They desperately need him. Now like the Dolphins, you can have a rug pulled, Tua's out, and then things are going to go sideways. Waller can pick up a hamstring injury at any point. But my weekly rankings upcoming for Darren Waller, like it could be second, like depending on the matchup.
The crazy part of this is he looks better now than he did when like the New York Giants traded for him after that Raiders run, when we anticipate him unlocking the Dayball offense. And he was abysmal that season. He looks better right now than he did after and pre-retirement and post-trade from the Raiders.
It's that High Rocks competition. He saw my brother and knew he had to whip into shape.
It absolutely is. Let's talk about the Dallas Cowboys and the garbage time New York Jets, because on the scoreboard, Hayden, this looks like it is 37-22. However, entering the fourth quarter, it was 30-6. Some of your Jets got there because of that garbage time, yet they're still 0-5 on the season and literally look like one of the most abysmal franchises in the NFL after Aaron Glenn just took over.
Yeah, I just wanted to sum this stuff up on one play. Going into a little like a 2-minute situation, but there's even like 30 seconds left after the Jets punted the ball. The Cowboys are on their 30-yard line, and they wanted just to run the ball just to set up like potentially the longest Brandon Aubrey attempt of all time, which he probably would have hit. And after running the ball, there's just no Jets over the middle. He takes it for like 66 yards. It was disgusting performance. That sets up a touchdown to completely blow this thing out. If you got multi-view on YouTube TV, you're changing it to a different game at that point. It was over. But how we even got there for the first like couple touchdowns, this was just another one of these Dak Prescott games where without your left tackle, your left guard, your center, your right guard, and maybe one of the best wide receivers in the game in CeeDee Lamb. We're talking about 5 very key starters on this team. And Dak Prescott had a bunch of time, was managing things well. And I think this is one of the best designed games just from any coaching staff across the league. Schottenheimer, I think, has done really well. Clayton Adams, their new offensive coordinator, who, by the way, the Cardinals are really missing. I think that Clayton Adams is probably going to be one of these names where we get to head coaching interviews, and he might not get one right away, but he's definitely a name that matters. Super impressive. We talk about 90th percentile EPA per play without 4 of your starting offensive linemen. One thing that stood out with Dak Prescott, he had 7 carries for 28 yards. There was a couple like first down scrambles, That was his most carries and yardage in his last 24 games. Like that's just like a new little wrinkle. And George Pickens gets home. Sauce Gardner was traveling with him, like even into the slot. But Sauce allows George Pickens to get over the top just for 1/2 yard. Pickens makes the most of it to save his day. Jake Ferguson, he had a screen opportunity that went to the house. They also leaked him out. And just one little note on the Clayton Adams stuff on that Ferguson touchdown, the screen. It's a play action to the left, and then and with Pollers going to the left, and now the entire defense is going that way, and then now the screen and the other remaining offensive linemen that were not pulling are now going to the right. And you can see that there's nobody even near Jake Ferguson. So that was just something where you're using just complete misdirection, setting things up. Everything felt on time. This is like a team that seems like they're practicing well, hitting their marks and going. So Ferguson's been playing well. Pickens playing well. Dak, Javonte. But I think everything is really Clayton Adams and Schottenheimer deserve a lot of credit. And you can see that in the design from some of their explosives in this one.
I mean, we talked about the Eagles offensive line. We talked about the Chargers offensive line, just dealing with backups, not having the starters that you're paying a lot of money to or that you drafted highly. This Cowboys team is up there too, in terms of all the talents that they're missing. And yet over these last 2 weeks, scoring 37 points in this game, turning into your identity and scoring 40 points last week against the Packers. That is like no excuses, no nonsense. Mm-hmm. We're still going to have an awesome offense. And that deserves a ton of praise in this league where it's very easy, again, to make excuses, especially from fan bases. And the Cowboys aren't doing that. And they put 77 points on the board over the last 2 weeks.
They've been lights out. I'm looking at the pass protection numbers. Dak was only under pressure on 15% of his dropbacks. So that's equally as much of a Jets defensive stat, which, by the way, this team has invested a lot into the defense over the last couple off seasons. It is gone. Sauce Gardner played an excellent game, like really did shut down George Pickens for 95% of the plays, only had the one down the field, but they have no pass rush juice. They have no linebackers right now. And there was a bunch of plays where there was just nobody in sight with the Cowboys guy with the ball. It was a pretty lackluster performance, and that's just on their defense. The Jets offense is like a whole other discussion too.
Okay. Because people love to just look at scores and stats. How did Ryan Flournoy go 9 targets, 6 receptions, and 114 yards?
Yeah, he had a 46-yarder. There was a big play down the field that kind of sprung that. I was kind of projecting it was going to be Jalen Tolbert to kind of take off because the difference between the Jets cornerback one and Sauce Gardner and the rest of the unit, it's very steep. So whoever is like the other corner or the other wide receiver, you want to like, this is like something to note because I think that Sauce is like playing fairly well. But the drop off, they don't have DJ Reed. Like it used to always be DJ Reed. He's no longer with the team. So yeah, they got some issues back there. So that's how Ryan Flournoy went crazy.
We're going to talk about this in this game and the next game that we talk about. Fantasy football is a made up hobby that we all partake in and that somehow we've made a career out of. Do you ever feel like slightly icky when a team plays so miserable for 3 quarters and yet it kind of doesn't matter because then they can score 16 points in the fourth quarter and actually look like on a stat sheet that they played a good game for the entire time, where Justin Fields, has 283 yards, 2 touchdowns to go along with 26 rushing yards. Like if you just took that, great fantasy day, Justin Fields. I know Breece Hall actually from start to finish probably did well, 14 carries, 113 yards. And then Garrett Wilson again has a garbage time touchdown, is like the wide receiver 9 on the week with 6 catches for 71 yards and a score.
It's our job to navigate the ickiness and know a PPR scam, know a garbage time scam, and adjust for that. I did think that there was a chance that Justin Fields was going to get straight up benched in this one. They just never went with that. I think that might have been like too much of a storyline. The big caveat here is like the Cowboys defense was not impressive to me at all. Like there was times on Breece Hall runs where I was like, is there 10 people on the field for Dallas? Like, where is the other linebacker? Where's the safety? It's just like Breece Hall like running right up the middle over and over and over again. There was a pretty tough sequence early on. Breece Hall gets hit behind the line of scrimmage at the goal line, like 5 yards behind the goal line or behind the line of scrimmage. The next play on a 3rd down, they throw a screen to him, which gets batted and actually hits the sky cam. The ball got batted so high, it hit the sky cam behind the quarterback on that one. So things were getting weird for the Jets offense. Garrett Wilson stacked his corner down the field. It should have been a 44-yard touchdown. Justin Fields just like straight up missed him. So like that could have been an explosive play for Garrett Wilson. But he does score in garbage time. Justin Fields does do a little garbage time masterclass here. One like new name was Mason Taylor. He had 3 targets in the first quarter. So this was not like total scam stuff. Obviously,
back-to-back weeks.
He's just at, I think it was like 26% target share last week, 27% target share this week. Every single time, he's not like going to wow you. It's not going to be like the Tyler Warren stuff or Trey McBride. He's just like catches the ball, no wasted movement, get upfield, decent athlete. Like he's not overpowering in any way, but he just seems like he's going to be lined up in the right spot, consistently catch the ball and turn upfield and win the race to the first down marker. So I think he's very real. Like this team is desperate for. Yeah, I think they're desperate for him to show up. He looks like he's showing up. The defense, I think, is terrible. So they're always going to be in these garbage time situations. So to answer your question, like I'm rooting for Mason Taylor because I know that the fourth quarter scam's coming and I want to be signed up for it.
I'm not picking on the Jets, and this is just a bigger topic at large, but Justin Fields, other than week 1, has been bad, abysmal. Okay. But then you look, and I understand if you don't want fantasy football to just be, a recreation of what happens on an actual football field. But the two are kind of linked to me in a certain way, and maybe they shouldn't be, but they're kind of linked. He's the quarterback 4 in points per game right now, and that's even including a week 2 where he's only scored 4 points before exiting in that one. He's averaging 22.4 points right now.
I got a solution. I got a solution for you. I'm going to call up the product team over at Underdog and get the engineers online. And we're going to start the first ever EPA based fantasy football league. We're just aiming for EPA, total EPA.
I'm even like sometimes anti-EPA to all of these things. I just don't know. Like, I don't know if I have an answer. It just kind of feels icky to me.
Yeah, of course. It's a game on top of a game on top of a game when we're on a freaking rock in the middle of the solar system. It's all fugazi.
Well, to continue on that path, let's talk about the Detroit Lions absolutely obliterating the Cincinnati Bengals, even though the scoreboard only says a 13-point difference, as the Lions post 37 and the Bengals 24. The first touchdown this game went to Sammy Laporta on a little check and release barrel roll across the goal line. Sam Laporta goes 5 for 92 and a score. Dave Montgomery is the second touchdown here, but on a wildcat pass to the back of the end zone to Brock Wright. David Montgomery later on does score a rushing score, 18 carries, 65 yards, and then his passing and rushing touchdown. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 8 for 100. And then Jahmyr Gibbs also gets a receiving touchdown on top of this to go for over 80 total yards. The lines early on this game actually looked like they could have, total freedom against the Bengals. I will say something to keep in mind moving forward is that Trey Hendrickson was lining up over this backup left tackle for the Lions and wreaking havoc at times. And so we'll see how long Taylor Decker misses for multiple weeks. But against better teams and better defenses, albeit I actually thought the Bengals defense played well in the first half. They were just being set up to fail because of their offense. That is an area that other, defense coordinators are going to target, is that left side in that pure drop back game. Okay. Oh, and by the way, Isaac Tessa, all he does is catch touchdowns as a late one here as well. The Jameson Williams stuff. He got a carry on the very first snap and then another reception and then didn't touch the football the rest of the game. So
what am I supposed to do with this guy in rankings? I just give up. You spin the wheel. It's on you guys. You guys do your own rankings, do your own research with JMO. I'm done.
Yeah, this was not a real football game, so it can be tough.
Well, they scored
everyone
37.
else gets there except for him.
Yeah, well, they scored 37. He wasn't participating. That's something.
Let me talk about the ridiculousness of the Bengals, because this was literally pitiful.
Yeah,
maybe the worst quarterbacking performance I have seen over the last 2-3 seasons.
And you're a Panthers fan.
Is from Jake Browning. Just arm punts, no pressure around him, throwing it directly to linebackers, corners, safeties, all that type of stuff. And yet they scored 21 fourth quarter points. And so it looks like totally fine on the scoreboard and in the box score. It was absolutely abysmal. And there's like a 2-play sequence that works out perfectly where for some reason, down like 30 points in this game, they try a flea flicker and
He got. I saw
And
this one.
Jake Browning gets absolutely demolished from his blind side, fumbles it. It is recovered, though, by the Bengals. Looks like he is going straight to the sideline and never to play another snap.
Yeah.
The very next snap, on like a 3rd and 16, Jamar Chase runs a double move and scores on a 64-yard touchdown. In the end, Jamar Chase is the wide receiver 2 on the week with 6 receptions, 110 yards. All of that, outside of 31 yards, is from the final 20 minutes when down by 30 points on the scoreboard. So the Jamar Chase experience is fascinating because when you look at his points on the season, he scored 3.6 in week 1, then 29.5 to make him the wide receiver 3, then 6.4, then 4.8 as the wide receiver 43 and 60. And then this week, he's the wide receiver 2 at 26. So it's all or nothing at this point. It's all or nothing. It's either he's going to help you win your matchup or he's going to be a reason why you lose your matchup. And I understand like the Lions, Terry Arnold left and he was doing quite well. Amik Robertson actually had nice coverage on Jamar Chase and along with Jake Browning throwing it on like the inside placement of the shoulder versus the outside makes a huge difference. But yeah, next week they have the Green Bay Packers defense too. So it's like totally up to you if you want to ride this roller coaster and you want to depend on this high variance stuff. Just don't watch it.
Yeah, this is a complete refresh the box score situation, but Jamar Chase creates a bunch of explosive plays, and this team is going to be in garbage time a lot because their defense is no good. I don't
even know if they'll be good at it because they haven't been good at it in other weeks. Like they were terrible at it last week against the Broncos.
Yeah, and then the Vikings. So it's Broncos and Vikings versus the Lions. One of my takeaways from this Lions defense is extremely banged up. Like you name a position, they have somebody on IR or that's ruled out, and then you just mentioned a player who they've been relying on the outside. And he left this game too. So this Lions defense, they'll battle and they're well coached, but they're losing a lot of bodies at this point. So I do think it's a team to kind of pick on. And the Lions should be in a bunch of high scoring games. And then after this one, because of those interceptions were so terrible in this one, this was for the first time Zach Taylor did not say that they were not going to look at quarterback options. So I don't know if that means the quarterback 3 on the team or if that means Russell Wilson or Kirk Cousins or whatever. I know that all the reports are saying they haven't looked into the situation. You don't do that after 2 weeks, but after 3 weeks of looking like crap, I do think that you start looking at this thing. The context with the Bengals though is they're 2-3. The Ravens are 1-4, and they're not going to have Lamar for another game here. And the Steelers, they're in the lead right now. But I think that's a team that like you can go toe to toe with the rest of the season. So they just have to get the quarterback situation right. So we'll see if they go make a move for Russell Wilson or somebody like that. In the meantime, we're going to be hoping for explosives in the fourth quarter, which like I'm okay signing up for, but it's going to be volatile.
Yeah, Chase Brown gets 7 catches for a whopping 21 yards. Andre Yoshivas actually was like the most impressive player on the Bengals here, making some really tough grabs to set up those Jamar Chase touchdowns. And then, yeah, T. Higgins was the final of the ridiculous touchdowns here at the front pylon, but he goes 3 for 22 and 1. Yeah, I mean, there are other teams like with the Saints, even if I enjoy watching them, they're the type of, hey, don't watch them and just refresh the box score. That's like different advice than I would give with these Bengals players because it's all or nothing. And it's just up to you if you want to be in the all or nothing experience, like, or if you just would rather go for like the 7 for 80 that some of these other pass catchers that we are getting.
Show me those guys
with Jamar Chase. Well, I mean, like this week we were being asked Jamar Chase or Emeka Egbuka, Jamar Chase or Quentin Johnston or Jamar Chase or these other guys. And I can like see the pathway for those from quarters 1 through quarters 4. Right now for the Bengals, it's okay. Cross your fingers and pray that the final 20 minutes, they actually like get it going. Where in the first, 35 minutes, they could do absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I think we just see this one different. I just think that Jamar Chase is too good that he's always going to be 60, 70 yards in the pick 'em
But
lobby.
He's been bad except for 2 games this season. Like he's made you lose contests with being the wide receiver 71, 43, and 60 in other ones. And
there's a lot of players. There's a lot of players that make you lose in fantasy. There's only a couple players that make you actually win games in fantasy. And he's
okay. So let's talk through this the next 4 weeks because I think this is like a huge talking point. And we'll do it more this week. Yeah. Are you going to treat Jamar Chase on the road against Green Bay the same as you did against the Lions this week? Or is that closer to the Minnesota defense and the Broncos defense when on the road?
I'll probably start with my rankings, not knowing bye weeks injuries as like the wide receiver 12.
And then after that, it's the Steelers, the Jets, and the Bears. So to me, those are ones that I would want to attack. That maybe he'll have his third top 30 game with Jake Browning in those. And I'm not sure with the Packers one, if that's possible here. So like, it's like a game to game for 4 quarters. If I think a defense can keep the Bengals terrible, which they will start terrible in the first 3 quarters.
Yes. And hopefully they trade for Russ soon enough.
Yeah. They have a week 10 bye. So maybe something around then.
Hopefully.
The question of when the Tennessee Titans would win their first game of the 2025 season has been answered. And in, I think, spectacular fashion, Brentley Wiseman, as the Tennessee Titans beat the Arizona Cardinals on the road 22-21. Another 16-point fourth quarter here, but maybe in the most uncharacteristic, craziest way, 16 points can be scored.
Yeah, guys, this was really a tale of two halves. I mean, for the first half, the Tennessee Titans couldn't do anything with the football. I was getting ready to come on here and just kind of bash Cam Ward. He looked awful for a large stretch of this game. But then the Arizona Cardinals just wanted to give this game away. And, you know, when the Titans had an opportunity to do something, Cam Ward came through clutch in the fourth quarter. He made about 2 incredible passes down the field to Cam Ridley. Finally, that duo is getting going. He made the plays needed to win the game, and it was a really, really gritty performance for the rookie, and one that I think they can build around as they move forward for the season.
With Cam Ward, he's just going to be a gunslinger type. So when he catches, you know, a little soft spot in the zone and he can pull the trigger and release it, he's going to have some like wow moments in stretches of half. Was there anything like different about Calvin Ridley? Because he got buried in my rankings because he was coming in with a elbow and a knee injury. His numbers were terrible. He pops here for 10 targets in this one. Was there like anything new about Calvin Ridley, or is it just simply he caught the damn ball this time versus
he caught the ball,
the
and I would say he looked a lot more explosive than he did really in kind of weeks 1 and week 2. You saw him get vertical multiple times. Like, that's really encouraging to see. Had some good rack after the catch, made a couple of players miss. So the talent's always been there for Calvin Ridley, which we all know. We know how talented he is. But it felt like finally the timing, the chemistry, the rhythm with him and Cam Ward really began to show. And so I wouldn't be surprised as we go on into the season that duo, that connection only gets better, only gets more consistent.
Yeah. I think we're bearing the lead here. There are some unreal moments that led to this Cardinals loss. And I'll put it on the Cardinals as a loss rather than like the Titans winning this game. Okay. The first one with, 4:39 left in the fourth quarter, Cam Ward throws an interception, right? The Cardinals are trying to run it back and get some better field position. Yet the returner fumbles it. It gets knocked around into the end zone, and Tyler Lockett recovers it for a touchdown. All right. So that brings it to 21-19 Arizona. Yeah. Even before that, though, all right, there was another moment when the Cardinals were up 21-6, 3rd and 1. There's a photo, an incredible photo of Emari DeMarcado on a 70-plus yard run, 2 feet from the end zone, 12:42 left on the clock to take this one to 28-6, putting it away, no chance. And yet, in back-to-back weeks, we have a player who drops the ball before he crosses the goal line, and then the Titans get the ball, we know, after that. And then, Brentley, this Cardinals coaching staff is on my radar. The ball knowers, love them. I understand they do some really cool things on defense, like Nick Rollis, and Jonathan Gannon can really fire him up, and he only cares about fiery personalities. Well, up 21-9 with 3:06 to go at their own 35-yard line, the Cardinals, instead of trusting Kyler Murray, who was in and out of this game with an injury, or Trey McBride, one of the best tight ends in the league, or Marvin Harrison Jr., who they just spent a top 5 pick on, who had a great contested grab earlier. They have a run. They gain 2 yards. 2nd and 8, run, gain of no yards. 3rd and 8, run, gain of 1 yard. And then they punt the ball back to the Titans with 2 minutes to go, only needing 2 points and having a timeout in their pocket. That is terrible, gutless, spineless coaching from a staff that prides themselves in being the hammer, being like talking the talk and walking the walk. They haven't done that this season. And I don't know like what their identity is. And right now it's like rolling over in their back and allowing the Tennessee Titans to come back in and maybe spouting out the worst loss in franchise history.
I mean, look, this loss was directly on the coaching staff. It was pitiful. So not just that last drive where you illustrate, you know, the 3 straight runs when they're trying to close out the game, keep the ball out of Kyler's hands, keep the ball out of McBride's hands, and really just give the ball to the Titans offense. The entire second half, when they were up 21-6, they played the game not to lose instead of trying to win. Just so conservative, so vanilla. And with that, this team is maybe the most undisciplined football team in the NFL. Penalties that will just, at the worst time, drive-killing penalties, that an errant snap, which led to a turnover. I mean, it was just a death by 1,000 cuts. It was brutal watch. And all, to me, stems from Jonathan Gannon, his leadership, Drew Petzing, who I think should be fired, basically, after today. It was that bad. I think it was an abomination from the coaching staff to have a 21-6 lead at home against Brian Callahan and Cam Ward, and to lose in this fashion. I mean, look, the loss last week to Seattle I thought was tough as well. I think I saw a tweet. The 3 straight weeks they've lost on the final play of the game, which shows they cannot close football games. And that, to me, is a directly reflection on the coaching staff.
And their next games, you got the Colts, Packers, Cowboys, Seahawks, Niners. It's tough. I mean, the 2 games that they won, it was the Saints who they beat them by a touchdown. Congrats. And they beat the Panthers by 5 points. Congrats. So
they almost lost that one.
Yeah,
I know. Yeah, they're in last place in a division that's very good. All 3 of the teams ahead of them are just better football teams. And I know they got the explosive in this one, but the Titans can't stop anybody on defense. And just like throughout the whole season, they have not been able to consistently run the ball. So you're putting a lot of pressure on Kyler Murray. And I'm not sure what the end result is. I know that he left with like a foot injury. If we don't have like explosiveness out of Kyler Murray, then what exactly are we going to be doing at this point moving forward?
Yeah, he came back. So like it was a really, really weird injury. So like it was on the play where the center snapped the ball early. It was kind of a pile to get the football. Kyler dives in super late, like really unnecessary dive to the football. And he gets up, and you can kind of see him favoring his right, I think it's his right foot. And the booth had no idea what it was. They thought he was concussed. We come to find out it was a foot injury, but then he came back the next series. So I think the backup quarterback, Brissett. He had one
Jacoby
drive.
Brissett.
Then Murray came back. But to your point, Hayden, there was no more use of his legs. He was super one-dimensional in the pocket. And that, again, just really stalled out the whole offense. It was tough.
Yeah, this team just folds. I mean, it's that
year
simple.
3.
I understand last week against Seattle, there's like 30 seconds to go. So maybe you don't want to go for 2 at home to try to win it in regulation, even if you just scored a touchdown. Now, again, just allowing an explosive play takes you and allows you to lose that game in regulation. So yeah, I mean, this Cardinals team, I don't know what they're good at. We see moments of it. Trey McBride's really good. They try to funnel it through middle of the field receptions to the tight end, but you can't say all this stuff. You can't try to add all these pieces and just play this way. And we're in year 3 of this, and it's frustrating. And like you said, Hayden, the schedule only gets more difficult after this. I do want to ask you some specifics here, because a huge fantasy conversation heading into this game was, okay, what is the running back room going to be between Michael Carter, Bam Knight, and Amari DiMercato? How did it actually unfold?
Yeah, it was the Michael Carter show from the first snap really to the last. I mean, I think he outsnapped DiMercato and Bam Knight by a lot. Michael Carter finished the game with 18 carries, 51 yards, a touchdown. So not a lot of production, but the volume was certainly there. To me, he was just in all the gotta have it downs. It was 22 Michael Carter in the backfield. When they were trying to run the ball, kill the clock, it was Michael Carter. So he is the RB1 for this offense. DiMercato, very much the third down back. He finished with the game with how
Let's How about that? I mean, are we sure he's going to be here next week?
Because he only had 4 carries. Obviously, the one went for 81 yards, and the boneheaded play, dropped the ball at the goal line, back of the end zone, a touchback. However, He looked explosive. I mean, he did. He looked explosive on that run. And to me, Michael Carter doesn't have that in the bag. So that's where I struggle with outright cutting him, because I do think he is probably the most talented runner on the team. But the lack of touches for him earlier in the game, I thought was surprising. But it was very much Michael Carter and then everyone else falling in line.
Yeah, so we have like at least 4 or 5 more games of this. We mentioned the schedule's not looking good. The offensive line's not very good either. Like that's, I think, a big whole part of the Cardinals' problem for the last couple of years. But
I think
it's going to be
Michael.
It was bloodbath.
Right, and the interior is bad. Yeah, and it's just been the case for Arizona for, I mean, the last entire decade, you know? So that's not going to get fixed. Michael Carter, like you said, he's just not as explosive. Like he's so tiny, and you played in the NFL for a couple years and you're that tiny, and things are just not going to go your way. That said, he just so clearly like their top guy. So you can do worse moving forward, but I think there's only 2 teams on bye next week. So he'll be in my RB 26, 25 range. But I just don't have any faith in this entire organization, obviously.
All right. I was about to ask if the Titans are going to win another game this season. And then I look on their schedule. Next week, it's in Vegas against now the 1-4 Las Vegas Raiders, who only put up 6 points in week 5 of the season as they lose 40-6 against one of the best offenses in the league. Yes, the Indianapolis Colts. Brentley, talk us through this one. Is it as simple as Jonathan Taylor, when facing a bad defense, runs for 3 touchdowns, and then Daniel Jones dices him up for 2 scores in the air too?
Pretty much, honestly, pretty much just mix in some Geno picks. You got the game right there. Jonathan Taylor, guys, I mean, he should be talked about in the MVP conversation. He's unbelievable. I know the Raiders' run defense isn't nothing to write home about. I get that. But when you watch Jonathan Taylor, his ability to break tackles, his ability to make defenders miss in the open field, he is just one of the best running backs in all of the NFL. And so it was really odd. They didn't rely on him early in the game, guys. They were really passing the ball early in the game, really trying to open up the quick game, get the ball out of Daniel Jones' hands fast, really minimize Max Crosby's impact in the game, and that worked. Then the Colts had a couple of interceptions, a blocked punt, which set them up close to the end zone for first and goal. Went to the half up 20-3. And then it was JT time in the second half. They rode him like a horse, 3 touchdowns. He was really involved in the passing game, which I thought was really encouraging. He had 4 targets. I think he converted 3 of those. So he's a full, just 3-down running back who can do everything. He's a complete bell cow. He's just an RB1 7 days out of the week. So he's awesome.
Yeah, he's like in this one, in the first 3 quarters, played 54 or 50 of the 59 snaps. So you just don't see any running backs do that with that efficiency right there. Looking at it, we did not get the ascendance of Josh Downs into 3 wide receiver sets, but
2 wide receiver sets.
2 wide receiver sets. But he did have 8 targets, a team high for Josh Downs. So with Alec Pierce, I thought he was going to come back, but that's like another week miss with a concussion. You just never know. I don't see much Adonai Mitchell, no catches in this one. Was there anything to take away missing Alec Pierce, Adonai Mitchell? Was it Ashton Doolin mixing in? Is that who popped in?
Yeah, Ashton Doolin started. So in 12 personnel, it was Michael Pittman and Doolin, obviously with the 2 tight ends. And then in 11, it was Doolin, Pittman, and Josh Downs. Adonai Mitchell, I think he saw maybe 6-7 snaps. He was like very much benched from last week's debacle. Like it was sending a message. It is Doolin, Pittman, like Mitchell is nowhere to be found in the offense at this point in time. But Josh Downs, his stats, I mean, weren't that crazy, but when you watch the game, he was a big part of this passing offense. He ate early on, finished the game with 6 catches, 54 yards on 8 targets. But 2 of those guys were like massive 3rd down, gotta have it moments, able to find him and sit in the zone. One of them, he made a guy miss to get to the sticks. Like Josh Downs, I thought was really impressive today. And then Tyler Warren, obviously, just rinse and repeat every single week. Just God, he's just amazing. Mm-hmm. Just a top 5 tight end in real football and in fantasy. So he's just an unreal 1st-round pick.
Yeah, and Pittman gets a red zone touchdown too. And I even see Anthony Richardson completing a pass to himself for 9 yards.
It was crazy.
Okay,
on brand.
Yeah, we got to talk about the Raiders here. Let's first start with the running back because he actually matters. Ashton Jeanty, 14 carries, 67 yards, a long run of 12. Then in the receiving game, he has a 29-yarder, that ends with 5 catches for 42 yards and 7 targets. So at least we're getting 7 targets here for Ashton-Jeanty, which is a lot better than the first 2 weeks when, Dylan Lowby was getting more targets than him. How did it look? We know we didn't have Colton Miller in this game. Could you feel that impact? Was there anywhere for Ashton-Jeanty to run? Because even last week, after a explosive game, he still was, contacted at or behind the line of scrimmage on like 13.
Yeah, when you guys go back to watch the game for stats versus film, you'll see, Jeanty's talent is very evident. Like, he made a couple guys miss. I thought he was really impressive in the passing game. Josh, as you mentioned, that wheel route was pretty nice, able to track the football across over his shoulder. Like, that looked really natural to me. Really confused why it took so long to get him involved in the passing game. Like, that's just nothing, neither here nor there. But he looked explosive, made some good cuts. I thought he ran the ball fine. But yeah, the issue is this offense is so one-dimensional at this point because there's truly no threat for Geno to pass the ball down the field. The Colts just stacked the box. Just stacked the box, start the whole game. And yeah, there wasn't a ton of room for Jeanty later in the game. And then come the fourth quarter, he's on the sideline, guys. He didn't play the whole fourth quarter because the game was that out of hand. So early in the game, he had some success, but this game script really killed any opportunity for him to have a really big game.
Yeah, that's a good note. I was just looking at the snaps. Jeanty played 28 of 31 in the first half, and then obviously it was a blowout. But that's like an upgrade for Ashton-Jeanty moving forward. The Raiders are just anemic right now. I don't know what football freaking Geno Smith has been studying this year, but the drop off from like the last couple of years to this year has been completely substantial. He seems like he's like in the seeing ghost category. Like a lot of these interceptions, just like defenders breaking on it, he just has no sense of it. So they're just going through it. And I think it's a good note that they don't have like the downfield threat. Like the best thing they have right now is Trey Tucker in that department. He had 4 for 62, but in complete garbage time. And then last note, Brentley, Raiders defense, they've given up obviously 40 this week. The Bears got them for 25, and the Commanders before that got them for 41. I mean, they're going to be in this negative game script a lot because it's Max Crosby, who was sensational when I went back and watched the Bears game. I'm sure he was fantastic in this one too. But nobody else. I mean, like nobody else. So we're going to be stuck in this environment where Geno Smith's just going to be like, F it, like YOLO ball, which he can get hot and put up some numbers, but he also is going to throw these interceptions. The
interesting part of this too is, they didn't treat this as a rebuild going into the season other than, bring in new head coach and general manager. With that head coach, it's a 79-year-old Pete Carroll.
How dare you?
And Chip Kelly, who has experience calling plays in the NFL. And then instead of going with a young quarterback, when you have, a top 10 pick, it's instead going with Geno Smith, who I like, but over his last 4 games has 8 interceptions and they've lost all 4 of those games. So they did not expect to be 1-4 based on their actions, even having a totally new regime come in. They did this to like hit the ground running and to win games right now. And I'm sure Tom Brady had an impact on that. And here they are, just like his Birmingham City team, because they fucking suck at the Villa. And the Raiders score 6 points in this game and 9 points against the Chargers. And like, what are they going to do? What are the Raiders going to do the rest of the season? With
Genuinely, this team needs to be a team that embraces the tank to try to get a quarterback next year, as they should have got one this past year, as you mentioned. But they have a 73-year-old head coach, a top 10 running back. Like, this team isn't a team that's going to try to tank. They want to win football games. But you can't win with this defense and this type of Geno Smith. Like, it is literally a losing proposition. Geno should have had 3 picks today. He was abysmal. It was honestly like jarring how bad he was. I was at the game last week in Vegas and I saw it live, and I was just like, holy crap. Max Crosby's playing at a Hall of Fame level right now, and this is the Geno that we're getting week in to week out. It is just really bad. I will say, obviously, Brock Bowers didn't play today, and certainly that had an effect on Geno, I'm sure. But this is just not sustainable moving forward, and I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, they wouldn't go to the bullpen, but I mean, I'm not sure what more they can do at this point. He's a turnover machine.
Well, Geno's got $18 million guaranteed next year. So it's we're months away, I think, from any Geno Smith benching at this point. And he's still going to have some pass game numbers, so I don't want to like completely bury like the Jacoby Myers tier.
Yeah.
I did want to note, though, before the game, we got a news update on Brock Bowers that it's a PCL injury, but also a bone bruise.
Oh, wow.
We did not know about a bone bruise. bone bruise is like not something that you just like go tough it out. Like bone bruise could like escalate, and that's the reason why he didn't play. So he has not been the same. Who knows what's going to happen with Brock Bowers? But if this knee injury like lingers, like in their 2-7 and stuff, like you're going to have some like interesting discussions. So I'm fairly nervous about the Brock Bowers situation. Like we obviously couldn't predict that it's going to take this knee injury, but like all of a sudden, like this team's looking pretty suspect. And we don't know if he's going to play this next week or if he's going to miss like the next couple games.
One last note from me for the Raiders, and just to file away for deeper fantasy leagues. The second round pick, Jack Betch from TCU, he finally played today a lot. He and Dante Thornton were pretty much evenly snapped for the third receiver role. So certainly that's a promising sign for him, because I know the team really likes him. And I think, with Brock Bowers, potentially missing multiple games, I think Betch could be a candidate for more targets moving forward. I thought he looked good today, so I just wanted to mention that as well.
The O must go in week 5. And yes, the New Orleans Saints, our frisky, feisty Saints, knock off your New York Giants. They're both 1-4 right now. 26-14. Hayden, tons of turnovers here for this youthful, young Giants team. Jackson Dart, 2 interceptions. Cam Scatterbo, 1 fumble. Darius Slayton, 1 fumble. Jackson Dart, also a lost fumble in this game. Meanwhile, the Saints seemingly play clean. Spencer Rattler, 21-31, 225 and a score. Kendre Miller leads this team in carries. I'm sure we'll get to that with 10 for 41. And yes, Rashid Shaheed, an 87-yard catch and run. We've been waiting years and years for that since like week 3 of last year. And we got it. 4 for 114 and a score. Talk us through it.
I had eyeballs on this one, and boy, did they need them. The Giants were one of the first teams ever to have, I think, 5 straight turnovers. And I think they also had a turnover on downs to extend that streak as well. So it was really sloppy in the second half. In the first half, they got hot. Like Jackson Dart marched down the field, used his legs a little bit, 7 for 55 on the ground. We should just get used to that. Like he's just going to be one of these guys that's going to average 20, 30, 40 rushing yards per game. That's going to help him out in fantasy. But in terms of the normal drop back game, not a lot down the field at all. The longest completion here was only 18 yards down the field. And when I was watching this, it's just one of those where it kind of reminds me of the Bo Nix situation. And like, there's a lot of overlap between Jackson Dart and Bo Nix, but Brian Daboll has not been as good as Sean Payton at creating the like explosive half field reads, roll them out, throw the ball on the other side of the field. They're just not there yet as a team. So hopefully, as we saw with Bo Nix, that like a month into the season, you can start seeing some like real stuff from Jackson Dart in the normal drop back game. But unfortunately, no Malik Neighbors. Darius Slayton leaves with a hamstring injury on about halftime as well. So by the end of the game, they're throwing out like Wanda Robinson, who we know who he is, a slot guy. And then it's like Bo Collins, Jalen Hyatt, like a bunch of tight end looks. It was getting sloppy. And they only, I think, had 5 active wide receivers on there. So by the end of this game, the normal drop back game was just disgusting. We got Cam Scatterbo a bunch of receptions, 6 for 45 through the air, and then had 15 carries. So it's still like he's clearly the bell cow, but this team is stuck in that they don't have the normal drop back game, and you obviously can't win too many football games there. So it's a work in progress here. At least you get some fun plays out of Cam Scatterbo, Jackson Dart, and then Theo Johnson. So some young guys pitched in, but at the same time, it's a very young team without a proven outside wide receiver at this point. And it sounds like it's Darius Slayton with a hamstring injury. If he's not going to be out there, it's easily the worst wide receiver group in the NFL.
Without wide receivers, do you think they run more 12 personnel? Like
they ran a ton of tight ends.
Okay. But that's not, what we saw last week with this offense where they, spread it out, kind of did Ole Miss things in terms of attacking the perimeter. And then obviously that spacing allows you to have some stuff down the seam too. Mm-hmm. Daniel Bellinger, 4 for 52, and then Theo Johnson, 6 for 33 and 2.
Yeah, and they got Chris Manhertz in there going a little bit. But yeah, they just don't have wide receivers. And then they only had, I think, the 5 active wide receivers. And Brian Daboll said that they didn't have a 6th guy because they were going to use more tight ends and they wanted more tight end depth. So it's a mess. Theo Johnson made a couple plays like at the catch point, which was like nice for our round 18 shares. Jackson Dart's is going to be a better fantasy asset than real life asset. And hopefully he can start throwing the ball downfield with some consistency. There's like not enough downfield shots at all. And then when you're fumbling the ball, like he had that Bryce Young just dropped the ball, and then Scottaboo had one as well. So and then even Darius Slayton had one. So you can't lose the turnover battle 5-0.
So yeah, I see like 6 attempts, 20 plus yards on the field, 5 went incomplete, and then 1 was an arm punt interception. Okay, let's talk about the Saints end of this. Look, they're 1-4. I know I like say good things about the Saints every single week, but they're a fun watch, man. Like Spencer Rattler even popping up here with like 21 rushing yards and 225 passing yards. Olave getting his for 7 for 59. Rashid Shaheed for 4, again for 114 and a score on the 87-yarder. I think the thing that stood out to me is even with this new coaching staff, they still did some trickeration things with Taysom Hill in his return.
They did. I know. They can't knock it off. They really can't. It's insane. I don't have the snap counts in front of me right now. We have Taysom Hill. You want to give me a guess? So, okay, he had nine snaps, but he was out. He made the most of them. I mean, when he's on the field, the ball is going to him. So that's insane.
Yeah, and then I don't know if that takes away from Juwan Johnson. Again, also Foster Moreau was back for this game as well. But this is like kind of the bottoming out so far this season for Juwan Johnson, who has been a big target getter so far with 4 targets, 2 receptions, and 17 yards. So he was kind of, if you had flipped Juwan Johnson from Mason Taylor at that point, it was probably a nice move.
This morning, I think I said that. I saw the chat was kind of surprised by that. Before we go to the other players, just the Rashid Shaheed stuff, I do think is kind of notable. I looked back, he's played 11 games since the beginning of 2024. He's on pace for almost 1,000 yards. Like he's one of these players who I think in a better offense would be putting up like crazy numbers. Like if he happened to just be signed by the Chiefs, he would be putting up fantastic numbers. His speed is fantastic. And he's a good route runner on top of that. He's like not just like some like go ball guy. He can kind of do a very good Tank Dell impression. So I'm going to have him ranked higher than a lot of people. It's going to be volatile week to week, but you're going to have, this will not be his only 100-yard in a score game this season.
Yeah. Taysom had 6 carries for -1 yards on 9 snaps.
But the dog levels, the inspiration.
Speaking of carries, anything you want to say about this backfield, or is that something we'll talk about in Stats versus Film with Kendre Miller versus Alvin Kamara?
Yeah, I wasn't watching close enough to know that. The split makes me nervous. I think they were mentioning Alvin Kamara in the trade markets as well. And, you know, like they're 1-4, the trade deadline's approaching. So I think really like he's a bust where you're drafting him. And the only way you're going to get bailed out in the situation is with a trade. And we'll see. There's some very intriguing teams that if he goes to the Bears and the Chiefs and you name some others, it would be very interesting, but he can also just end up sitting on the Saints.
Please make that move, Chicago. Please make that move. I mean, that would be ideal.
Yeah.
Whenever I posted this question, when the Giants are going to win a game, it was always the Saints contest. Now, no one expected them to beat the Chargers last week. But the reason being is the Saints one was a nice little star. When you look at coming up for the Giants, it's Philly, Denver, Philly, San Francisco, Chicago, Green Bay, Detroit.
Yeah.
In that stretch.
Yeah. And since then, Malik Neighbors is out for the season, you know.
Correct. As for the Saints, they get the Patriots and the Chicago Bears. Okay. We did not get eyeballs on the Texans devouring the Baltimore Ravens 44-10, but I think we can sum this one up quite easily. CJ Stroud, 244 and 4 scores. At this point, obviously, a lot of the conversation was about Lamar Jackson missing on offense. Even bigger, it seems, is the respect that the Ravens have generated over recent seasons on defense with all of, you know, the investments that they made. Everyone is injured, and they like cannot function on that side of the ball right now.
Yeah, they have like 6 Pro Bowl level guys that aren't playing. We'll see what happens next week. Some of these guys were questionable and then ruled out. So hopefully they get a couple of these guys back. But like their defensive tackle is out for the season with a neck injury. Lamar Jackson's not expected to play this next week with a hamstring, and then they're gonna have the bye week after that. So I'm guessing that they're gonna take their lumps for one more week and then just try to go on a run after they hopefully get some of these guys back. But yeah, there's been coverage bust. Like I think it's like not even just the personnel. Like, you know, Mike McDaniel's having a hell of a defense in Seattle, and like they're missing him. So yeah, I mean, they're just too injured. Like right now, this team on paper it's one of the worst in the NFL. Ronnie Stanley's in and out of the lineup. Cooper Rush is at a quarterback, and their defense just gets chunk game after chunk games. Like next week, the Ravens are one of the worst teams in the league, and then hopefully they go on a run afterwards.
Zay Flowers does get 5 for 72, but no one else does anything other than, I think, a Derrick Henry touchdown in the third quarter here. I am a little peeved that when you win by 34 points and you score 44 in total, that Woody Marks only manages like 7 carries compared to Nick Chubb's 11. And then even Damian Pierce in like major garbage time gets 7 carries. Some guy named British Brooks pops up here for 2 carries for 15 yards. So like The game, for stats for some, I want to look into, because I just like out of the corner of my eye, I did see a lot of Nick Chubb early.
It was.
So that was a bit unsettling after the end of the game that we just saw for Woody Marks and like this ascension that we expected. But this was not a normal game, obviously.
Yeah, obviously it was like we had Rico Dowdle, Michael Carter, Rashad White, and Woody Marks, like kind of like the 4 new names we had to get right. And crazy enough, Woody Marks, who I thought looked the best out of all of those guys in the previous weeks, was the one to not get home, despite putting up 44 points. So it's definitely concerning. It was a 1-2 punch in the first half, and there was like no rhyme or reason. So we'll have more in details with that, but you're not going to face this level of Ravens defense every week.
Okay, during our Sunday morning live stream, to answer your start set questions, over in Hotspur Tottenham Stadium in London, the Vikings beat the Cleveland Browns 21-17. Vikings 3-2 on the season. Carson Wentz 25-34, 1 touchdown. Jordan Mason 13 carries, 52 yards, 1 score. Justin Jefferson 7 for 123, and yes, Jordan Addison with that game-winning touchdown at the end in that front right corner of the pylon. I think, Hayden, though, the big conversation here is about Cleveland and like if they looked any better. I know Dylan Gabriel near the goal line got 2 touchdowns, 1 to Harold Fannin, 1 to David Njoku. I saw him sail a number of passes. They were more competitive in this game. We kind of know like what the Vikings are on offense a little bit at this time. So it also was on my radar heading into this game that Ian Rappaport and I think some others mentioned that at some point in the season, Shedeur Sanders is going to play. So like, I understand that, as I've said this entire time, I really don't care about this Dylan Gabriel versus Shedeur conversation because there's another quarterback that's going to come in here in 2026.
Yeah.
But that's either coming from ownership that we definitely want to see Shedeur play this season no matter what, or it's, we don't expect Dylan Gabriel to play well. And so these guys are like each going to get 4 games to start. And that's how we're going to roll.
Or option C, somebody just like, we plan to play Shedeur just to try to shut everybody up over the conversation.
True.
It could just be like, we'll get see some Shedeur, no problem. Yeah. I mean, the results are going to be pretty mediocre. This offensive line is really bad. So the fact that Dylan Gabriel had any, production in this one, I think is fairly promising. I did watch him like try to take off and run for a first down and get hawked. He just like physically limited. And that's why he failed to where he did. I do think that he's
a long-term backup. Like that's just where he's
exactly.
Gonna be in the league.
But I think that he's gonna be one of these guys where like the success rate's not gonna wow you, but I think that they're gonna be like functional enough in garbage time, and they're gonna be in these 2 tight end sets with Njoku and Fannin, and they're gonna like make just some positive first downs, nothing too wowy. And then they're gonna run the ball with Quinshon Judkins. I mean, the Judkins stuff is phenomenal.
It's real.
I mean, that's every
great.
single week. Every single week.
Yep.
I mean, he looks like one of the best backs in the league. Like, and he didn't even
He's
practice.
a terror to tackle.
Yes. So, I mean, they're getting it done. I mean, if Dylan Gabriel's a long-term backup, which I think that he can be that, that's still a decent, like, late 3rd round pick.
Totally.
Schlesinger early in 2nd round, Judkins early in the 2nd round. Fannin's been making plays. Isaiah Bond is on the field as an undrafted free agent. Mason Graham as well. Like that's a lot of like intriguing offensive and defensive pieces. And they still lost this game, so the draft pick's better. So I think this is like relatively like great news throughout. They competed. They almost upset the Vikings, and they also lost. So they're going to have a better draft pick.
And look, they've scored 16 points, 17 points, 13 points, 10 points, and 17 points.
Get used to it
so far this season.
Yep.
Now, saying all that, their schedule coming up, it really can't get easier than this.
Okay.
It's the Steelers defense, then the Dolphins, then the Patriots, then the Jets.
Oh my God.
Then this Ravens defense, and then the Raiders defense.
And then the Titans and Bears shortly after that even.
Right. I mean, this Brown schedule is as cupcake as it can get.
Yeah.
If they don't win 4 games this year, then that's like pretty rough. Like, not that it matters, but I'm just saying, like, at some point, other than the offensive line and other than Jerry Jeudy, which, by the way, has been a miserable selection so far.
He's
Maybe
playing
that changes here in these
he's
next
playing
5.
like X receiver. He's like no longer playing like the flanker exciting role. He's playing like X receiver. It's not good.
Look, I think Kevin Stefanski is a good coach. I think Dylan Gabriel was sailing too many passes today. The Quinshon Judkins stuff is what matters each week. And based on tight end, you're starting Harold Fannin. And then if you really need to, maybe David Njoku. But after that, I understand that these matchups are coming up. It's just, I have this battle with a team that I know is bad, but are they good enough against bad defenses to score more than 17 points like they've been capped at this year?
Yeah, I think they're more the PPR garbage time stuff. I feel like I trust Stefanski and Gabriel with this collection of weapons just enough. Like during bye weeks, like I'm not going to say it's every week starters, and it's not the receivers.
Right, like Judkins is an every week starter, and then Fannon's a top 12 tight end. But like other than that,
Fannon's like maybe a top 12 tight end. Like we like Mason Taylor and all those guys, Darren Waller have passed him, and then David Njoku goes in for 9 targets in this one. So I think those guys you can do worse as streaming options, and we'll see. This is also a team that could be making some moves at the trade deadline. David Njoku's in the final year of his contract, and I think they're getting some good things out of Harold Fannin. So if David Njoku gets moved, maybe he goes to a contender. That's good news for him, and then Fannin can actually like ascend to 25% target, something like that. So this is one of these teams where like we're starting to see the separation of the NFL, and it's like very predictable which teams are doing really well and which teams aren't. And then all of a sudden some trades start happening and like things could flip like over the next month. So hold the line.
Yeah, it's not a surprise that they're only scoring 17 points at best per game. That was like their projection heading into the season, Yep. And they already won a game doing that. Score 21 or 24 points one of these weeks, Browns. Okay, yeah. Let's talk about the Vikings because they're about to come back from their double week across the pond. Carson Wentz, these last 2 games, they have won one and lost one. And then coming up next, it's the Philadelphia Eagles, the Chargers, and the Lions. Hayden, I think this is a big crossroads moment during this bye week for Kevin O'Connell to decide if he's going back to J.J. McCarthy or if he's sticking with Carson Wentz.
Yeah, they no longer can say that the ankle injury is like the reason why he's not playing. They're coming out of the bye week. All the reports were coming out of the bye week. It's going to be him. They did not put him on injured reserve. You would assume they did not put him on injured reserve because they were going to play him within the 4 weeks. Well, that's this next game. After the game, they talked to Kevin O'Connell, who was like non-committal on the whole situation on who's going to start. So it was not like J.J. McCarthy is coming back and he's our guy. And I was just looking at it. Obviously, no Jordan Addison. Darisaw was not out there, but Carson Wentz has been dealing with a bunch of offensive line injuries himself. And the EPA numbers, it's not even close between Carson Wentz and J.J. McCarthy. So he has to make this decision. Are the Minnesota Vikings about the future and you were going with J.J. McCarthy? Or do they think that Carson Wentz is good enough for them to kind of go compete down the stretch? I don't have a good answer. He seemed to handle pressure better in this one than what I saw from this last week. Obviously, you're playing Myles Garrett and you only take 3 sacks, and it's a backup center. Your left guard's out and your right tackle's out. So I think all in all, he probably played fairly well. I didn't watch the entire second half, but I watched the last drive there. And it's easy if you just throw the ball to Justin Jefferson, but no longer could Kevin O'Connell play behind this injury. Right. Like if it's not this next game, then he was benched. It's as simple as that.
And if you go with J.J. McCarthy, to me, you kind of have to do it the rest of the season, because if you start J.J. McCarthy after the bye week, and then you bench him later on, that is a signal of, tough. Hey man, you're just not going to be our quarterback.
Yeah, it's a tough decision because this entire offseason was about, we are grabbing a bunch of veterans, right. In the trenches.
And Ryan Kelly's on injured reserve, so he's going to miss the next 3 games after.
And that's a big deal. And then and right tackle's out week to week, and their left guard had a wrist surgery, and Brian Flores at any point can no longer be the defensive coordinator, and another team gives him a head coaching job. So like you have to look up all these men in the face and be like, yeah, we're going to go back to the JJ McCarthy stuff. And like, that's a justifiable decision. But I'm not sure if it's as easy as people are saying. Like if they think Carson Wentz is better, most teams play the quarterback that they think is better.
These quarterbacks aren't treated with like kid gloves anymore. But at the same time, like JJ McCarthy behind the scenes went through some like difficult things last year. Like it makes sense. You're in a quarterback competition in preseason. You play a couple series, then you're out for the entire year after being a first round pick, awesome at Michigan. And then you have to just sit there and like go to meetings every week and rehab and, work back from this knee injury, and then come in to the season this season as a starter, 4th quarter comeback, and then don't play well, get injured. And then now it's at this point, and if they goes with Carson Wentz, then it's another season potentially of, oh, I'm just going to sit in the meeting room. I mean, that would break some people. Let's put it that way.
We'll see. It's a tough decision, man.
Yeah.
Like I understand both sides of it, but I think the people that are like, it's for sure going to be JJ McCarthy, I don't think it's that. They could go back to him, but I don't think it's as simple as like they have to go to JJ McCarthy. If they think Carson Wentz is the better quarterback and they think the roster is good enough to go compete, then like that's like not an easy thing to turn down.
We'll close things out with Thursday Night Football. I don't even know if I remember this game. The 49ers win it 26-23. Just laser shows from, two elites at the position, Matthew Stafford and Mac Jones. I mean, what an effort here from Mac. This is the season of like one team's trash is another team's treasure in a way. We've obviously seen that in previous seasons with Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold, and Mac Jones is just another example. 33 of 49, 342, 2 touchdowns, getting his knee brace stuck into the back of his knee and then coming back and throwing darts over the middle of the field. And yeah, I mean, our buddy Christian McCaffrey remains a borderline running back 2 with 22 carries for 57 yards, but an elite wide receiver 1 with 8 catches, 82 yards, and a score. And then off the freaking couch between teams, Kendrick Bourne popping in with Ricky Pearsall, Jawan Jennings, George Kittle out, 11 targets, 10 catches, 142 yards.
Yeah. Apologies for the Kendrick Bourne ranking. I just got that one wrong. It happens. You're ranking a bunch of dudes. You're going to get some of these wrong. And he went crazy. He dropped a pass too. Like he was dealing with drops before this, drops a pass. Mac Jones taps him on the butt and then turns into Jerry Rice for the rest of the game. So that was really impressive. The Mac Jones stuff, he was coughing up on the sideline like you were on the previous episodes. He was not having fun out there, but grinds out a very impressive win. He's letting the ball go. It's like back when Jimmy G and then early stage Brock Purdy would just just trust the freaking process. You're going to maybe throw a couple bad interceptions.
You have a good coach. You
go.
Have some players out there and you trust your environment. And this is why, again, environment play is such a big deal.
Yeah.
I have seen some people, because of, the history of Shanahan and Mac Jones and flirting before that draft class, say, well, now it's a quarterback competition. To me, this is so much different in San Francisco than what we just talked about in Minnesota. So I am not of the belief that Brock Purdy and Mac Jones are on the same level. Now we're dealing with an injured Brock Purdy at this point. And maybe what Mac Jones allows them to do is hopefully get Brock to 90% versus what he was when he returned, which wasn't close to that. I mean, it was very obvious that, he was dealing with the toe and all these other things. But once Brock Purdy is 90% healthy, he is the top starter for this team. But other people are going to disagree with that statement.
Yeah, I just think the difference between this and the Viking situation is Brock Purdy's better than the other guy he's competing with. It's undeniable. Brock Purdy, when he's healthy, just adds a layer of rushing threat that Mac Jones can't. So it's very cool that Mac Jones is trusting the process and has enough arm strength and is just willing to let it rip. And I'm not even gonna say the skill group's not in this game, but not good. You throw to Tonjes and Demarcus Robinson, Kendrick Bourne, it's not a good situation. And this offensive line, they're going through it. Trent Williams is not the same player. He keeps getting beat inside. Jared Verse got him multiple times, and you really see that in the run game. There was a critical 4th down, and if you screenshot where Christian McCaffrey got hit, they went 0 for 5. And obviously, when you don't have George Kittle, that's going to also hurt your run game as well. But this offensive line can't block anybody up front, pushing the pile. So we're thankful that Christian McCaffrey is catching all these passes here. So
and yet they're 4-1.
I know. I mean,
it sounds like George Kittle is not going to return for the first time his opportunity from injury reserve, but week 7 is the goal here, I believe.
I hope. Yeah, that's what they said. But I think Pearsall and Jawan are going to come back. Brock Purdy is questionable too, so it's not like they're getting everybody back. They play in Tampa Bay this next week, so maybe when they come back home against the Falcons, hopefully they have everybody back then. So yeah, I mean, this is just Shanahan. Shanahan with the controller is just as good as it gets. So I think he's the runaway favorite for coach of the year. I don't know the odds, but he should be. You're 4-1 with backup quarterback. That's pretty impressive.
Okay, on the Rams end, real quick. I mean, Matthew Stafford continues to play at an incredible level. 3 touchdowns, does have a fumble here. And then Puka Nacua, 10 receptions, 85 yards, a touchdown. Kyron Williams gets 2 scores, but he has a missed time fumble here as well with 14 carries, 65 yards. Blake Corum only 1 carry here. So the running back split that we thought was tighter did not factor in.
Well, Corum fumbled, and then they didn't go back to him, and then Kyron fumbles, and he stays in the game.
Oh, they counted the Corum one for Stafford because of a fumbled exchange.
Yeah, that like Corum.
Oh, it
like,
was the
looked up
pitch.
good
It was the
because
pitch.
the
Yes.
defender was in his face and then he
Right.
just looked away. So
Right.
that was
and then the
that
Kyron one was at the
disappointing.
goal line. Now it's all coming back to me.
But that Kyron play for Alfred Collins, one of the best defensive
Massive.
plays you'll see the entire year. He was double teamed, so sometimes defensive tackles you have to eat a double team. He fought through it and then saw Kyron flash in front of him and punch the ball out.
Right.
That was an incredible play. That you will not find like a better defensive tackle rep given the circumstance. Like that actually won them the game.
That would have, yep.
Yeah, it's insane. That was insane play.
The Puka Nakua ceiling is totally unlocked here. We are back-to-back weeks of red zone touchdowns after he had like 2 in his entire career prior to this. So getting that stuff is, he's just on another planet. We had like a real 3-for-1. I won't go into it, but 3-for-1 conversation of like these really solid starters that were like Emeka Egbuka. I can't remember all of them.
Yeah, it was like 3 borderline wide receiver ones for Puka.
Right. For
You-
Puka,
and you-
and you were like, I gotta think about this.
You got to think about that. He's insane. He's insane.
Okay, that's going to do it. Monday night, I think a lot to go through on waivers. You and Jacob will cover that after Monday Night Football. That'll be on the channel. And then we're back at it Tuesday evening, stats versus film. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you to Moshe and Weaves behind the scenes, Hayden in front of the camera. Up the Villa, everyone. We'll talk to y'all soon. See you.